Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. You are listening to the Doc Owen Show live, Live, from our Hilltop studio in San Antonio, Texas. Go figure. We are an hour ahead of our over 4-year-old schedule. We kicked it off last week at 7 p.m. and decided that we would do it again. And actually, we threw a few listeners off, but we picked a few up. And if you follow us on Twitter, at Doc Owen Show, you just got a tweet saying that we are live. So, you know, that's the reason I've always said on the show, that's the best way to find out when we have something to say or when we're going to be on the air is, boom, you get a tweet. There you are. Click on the tweet, and you're listening. Yeah. So, Hello, Twitter fans. We are also on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're doing all kinds of stuff. But wherever we are, we're always the same. And it is at Doc Owen Show. It is pound Doc Owen Show. It is whatever the precedent is before the Doc Owen Show. All one word: DOCOWENSHOW. And it's the three of us, and we're rocking and rolling, and we're out there. We have a blog. I'm not going to tell you the name of it. It's .com.
There you go.
It's the DocOwenShow.com. And that's where you'll find a link to the show after the fact called a podcast, Play on Demand Cast. And you can listen to it there as well as download it and pass it around amongst your friends, etc. You'll also find some rants, ravings, and input from Uncle Bocce and myself from time to time. Bocce's better at it than I am. And you'll also find, if you like Uncle Bocce's historical perspective as the show historian, you can dig into his research on the blog, which is really pretty cool because we don't get a chance to bring it all up. We just wind up hitting the highlights in 10 or 12 minutes a week,
That's right.
But we do the best we can do. We have free apps, free FREE.
Free
apps. You still have to bring your own food to our show, but we do give you a free app for either the iPhone or the Android platform. You can listen to us out there, and if you download those apps from your respective store, you will have access to our catalog or our history of shows that goes back almost 5 years. So that kind of brings us up to date, lets you know who we are, where we're coming from, et cetera, and how. And there are any number of ways to find us. We had coffee yesterday afternoon with a young lady, and the show came up very briefly. It wasn't the point of the conversation, but she brought up the fact that she had listened to us and gave us where she listened to us, and I'd never heard of the place.
Me neither.
So evidently we're posted somewhere via our RSS feeds, etc. So I mean we get out there and we don't even know to tell people where to go other than Google it.
That's
just
right.
do a Doc Owen Show Google and pick the platform of your choice, whatever you're comfortable with. Or if you've already got the platform, check and see if we're on there. And if we're not, get back to us and tell us that. And
That's right.
That's
we'll
true.
try to figure out how to get on there. We got a good show for you tonight. I think we have a very good show. It's very insightful. We're going to have I'll tell you a little bit more about it after we get started in our traditional manner. So joining me in the studio tonight, as you have heard, is...
I'm a surefire.
And...
Uncle Bocce.
And yours truly. We start the show in a very traditional manner. Ms. Surefire always gives us an inspirational quote, which Uncle Bocce nor I, either one, have any insight into. We hear it at the same time you hear it, which is pretty cool, so we get the impact. Uncle Bocce gives us a moment in history, and if it's far enough back, it's something I can't remember. And then I will close out that little three-way segment with a leadership quote. So, Ms. Surefire, take it away.
And tonight's quote comes from yet another different website.
All right.
This one's called fixquotes.com. That's FIX quotes.com.
Fixquotes.com.
And tonight's quote comes from a gentleman by the name of Arnold Glasgow.
Okay.
He was a famous U.S. businessman.
Okay.
And his quote is, "Happy is the person who knows what to remember of the past, what to enjoy in the present, and what to plan for in the future."
Awesome.
Do it again. Deserves a repeat.
Yes.
Happy is the person who knows what to remember
Okay.
of the past,
Yep.
what to enjoy in the present, and what to plan for in the future.
I like
That's
it.
good. Yeah,
I
I like
like
that
it.
one.
Good job.
Yep.
Good
Thank
job,
you.
Anna.
Thank you.
Uncle Bocce,
So much truth in these quotes, I tell you.
she nails it.
Yeah. Okay, I've got 2 items for this day in history.
Yeah.
The first one was in 1790, and it was the first session of the U.S. Supreme Court, led by John Jay.
My horse was slow, and I missed that by 2 days. I remember it though. I was trying to get there.
Yeah, you're trying to.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah, and the second one was in 1861. Again, we're hearing about Texas. That was when Texas became the 7th state to secede from the Union
Right.
and the Confederacy.
Right.
So we were on the other side at one time. We probably still are.
I think so. Yep.
If
Yeah.
you talk to anybody outside of Texas, we're definitely on the other side.
Yeah.
That's the way the cookie crumbles. Our leadership quote tonight is from my friends at the Optimist Club. And it is a quote from a gentleman by the name of Menachem Mendel, Mendel. He was a rabbi in the mid to early 1800s. All right. Throughout my life, I have never regretted telling the truth. That's it. Boom.
Throughout my life.
I have never regretted telling the truth.
That's
Yeah.
important. That's
Absolutely.
Yep.
It is very important.
Yeah.
Very,
you should-
very
you
important.
never should regret.
You don't have anything
Tell
to
the
regret.
truth. You don't have anything to regret. if you Tell the truth.
That's true.
because it's the truth. It is what it is, and we're going to do some of that tonight. Our conversation, our show, is going to do some of that, and it's going to be. It might be challenging to some of our listeners, and it'll be very challenging to people who don't listen to the show. Think about that.
Yeah, all you out there
Hey.
who are not listening, listen
That's
to me.
Right. So those of you that are not listening, now would be a good time to tune in.
That's right.
That's right.
Uncle Bocce?
Like Trump
Right.
said,
Yeah. Oh,
now,
here we go.
Now is our time. Is that the words he said? Now is our time.
Okay.
President Trump said that.
President Trump said, we're going to talk about the State of the
Okay,
Union
I just-
during the course of the show. After we get through with Uncle Bocce, we're going to have an interview, conversation, as I prefer to call them, because that's what they are. They're not prefabricated interviews like you'll see a lot of places. I don't have a walk in with a notepad full of questions that need to be answered, etc., to play gotcha with somebody. We're going to have a conversation with Nico Lahood. Told you about it last week. This is the real deal. It's a very good conversation. I think you'll be able to pick up on some of the things that we're talking about, and then I might do a little bit of an analysis after it, and then we will talk about the State of the Union and some of our takeaways. Some of our first impressions, because we didn't really talk about that we were too busy eating our free food and then prepping for the show. So, Uncle, who's our president tonight, sir? Besides Trump. I mean, at this point in history, where are we in?
Number 12.
Number 12.
Zachary Taylor.
I always liked Zachary Taylor.
A lot of people did.
Just because of his name.
Yeah,
It
Zachary,
sounded president. There was something about when I was studying the presidents as a youngster, and I would get to Zachary Taylor, and maybe it's because my granddaddy's nickname was Zick, but that Z at the beginning was like, this guy's got to be cool, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us about
We'll find
Zachary.
out something about that tonight.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, Zachary Taylor, the 12th president. This gentleman, a successful military career. Some people feel, others say he was a lousy general, but he had no formal education whatsoever. None.
Really?
And he had no political experience. It wasn't involved in politics or anything like that.
A president of the United States that did not go to Yale or Harvard?
That exactly.
Unheard of.
Yeah, but he was a general in the U.S., the Union or U.S. Army at the
Right.
time. He bore the nickname Old Rough and Ready. Yeah,
Another
and
reason I like it.
it fits this man. And the reason why they called him that was because he had a good relationship with his troops, to the point where he always wanted to be out there with them and in front of them and leading them to whatever battle it was. So he was great like that. So they call him. He was always rough, and he's always ready for
Let's
us.
rock and roll.
Yeah, exactly. He was a member of the Whig Party.
Okay.
Not because he liked the Whig Party, but he hated the Democratic Party more.
Okay. I got it.
Yeah. He's from Louisiana. He was 5'8", and 200 pounds. His religion was Episcopal, so he had. I mean, there's nothing in his biography that mentions too much about his religion. He was born in Virginia, and he died of gastroenteritis. Did I say this right? Gastroenteritis.
I can understand.
Yeah, that's what he
Well,
died
he's from Louisiana.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I'll never come out of New Orleans without a stomachache.
Yep. But
That's true. For me, too.
yeah.
I mean, the food's delicious.
Yep.
but
yeah.
I can understand that. Okay, especially since he was born in Virginia. He had a hard time. Okay, go ahead. We digress.
Yeah, he had that gastroenteritis, and the nation was shocked when he died because they didn't.
They liked him.
They liked him. They didn't expect him.
First term, second term.
He only had one term.
Okay. He
So
died
let's
in
set
office
that
during
straight.
his first term.
No, he died
okay.
afterwards.
Oh, I thought, okay.
Yeah, because
He only had one term.
Wait a minute, 1848.
The guy just ahead of him only had one term, too.
Yeah, I guess this was at the end of his. I think it was like a couple of days after
He finished
he
his job.
finished his. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So.
Okay. I smell an FBI plot. But go ahead.
He said, "I have always done my duty. I am ready to die." What a good attitude towards death. You know, to be satisfied with what it is that you have done and be ready just to go. His only regret was for the friends that he left behind. Imagine that. You know, and that's true. And I think about that all the time. You know, when I think about dying, I said, I'm not worried about me dying. I'm worried about my kids and my grandkids. What are they going to do? You know. So, anyway, he is rested in Louisville, Kentucky. It's the site of the Zachary Taylor National Cemetery and Monument. He was married. He had 6 children. And he was in office from March 4th, 1849 until July 9th, 1850. So, yeah, he died while he was still in office.
Early in office.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. When he came into office, he was only 64 years old. And the only office that he held before that was he was U.S. Army Major General in the 1st Regiment, 1st Infantry Regiment. He fought in a couple of different wars, a few different wars. The War of 1812, he had a command. The Black Hawk War, which was a war against one of the Indian tribes up
right.
in Wisconsin, Illinois area.
Yeah, the Blackhawks.
Yeah. Oh, that's why they're called the Blackhawks. I did not know that.
Clever, these people.
They really are. Boy, I tell you, the things you learn. That's great. And then he was in the second of the Seminole Wars, which were the Indians who were in Florida. And but he didn't become a full-fledged hero until the Mexican War, the Mexican-American War.
Yep.
Yeah, that's when he became a hero, and that broke out in 1846, as we talked about before, with the annexation of Texas.
So,
Everything revolves around Texas.
so it'll change. So, okay, 1846. Well-known general, became a hero, yada yada. Was elected to the presidency 3 years later in 49, and died in 50 of a severe stomachache.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. The presidential salary at the time was still $25,000.
Yeah.
In today's dollars, that's $710,000.
Yeah, but there was no pension.
Yeah, no pension.
There you go.
The way we're going today, nobody's going to have a pension eventually.
Yes.
I mean, even though you paid into it, it may not be there.
Yeah.
Okay, his wife was Margaret Taylor, and she pretty much remained in seclusion in the White House. She didn't want any of the fanfare of being first lady. I think it was one of their daughters who actually stood in her place and took care of things in the White House.
Socially, that's interesting.
Yeah. Now, the election of 1848.
Yes.
James K. Polk refused, because that's what he had said, that he was not going to run again.
Right.
Even though people were trying to encourage him, he said, "No, I'm
No,
not.
right.
I did what I'm going to
Told you I
do,
was
and
gonna-
I'm finished."
Right.
Okay. Now, both of the major parties at the time were trying to avoid the big issue in the room, which was slavery.
Right.
They did not want that kind of divisiveness. They didn't want to talk about it. Okay.
Okay.
And the Democrats, they turned to a gentleman by the name of Lewis Cass of Michigan.
Yeah.
He was a very colorless party loyalist, but he was a party loyalist,
Right.
a Democrat.
Well, you got to be if you're going to get.
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
We'll talk about that.
Cass advocated popular sovereignty on the slavery issue,
Okay.
meaning that each territory should decide the question for itself.
So he copped out.
So he kind of that way, and that ended up that stance
That was their,
was not what the people wanted.
Correct.
They didn't like
They
either
wanted a
way. They
decision.
wanted a decision.
Yep.
So then the Whigs, they nominated Zachary Taylor. He was the hero of Battle of Buena Vista, and his military career was kind of up and down. Sometimes he wasn't really very good, and other times he did great. And there was the Liberty Party who ran in 1844 as well. They had a guy in there. And there's also the Free Soil Party, which Martin Van Buren ran on.
Wow.
You know, even though he was president before, he got very, very few votes. So Zachary Taylor came out the winner, both popular and the electoral votes. Out of 290 votes available, he got 163, and Lewis Cass got 127. So he pretty much just walked away, with it. Okay? He added a cabinet department, which was the Interior Department.
Okay.
Okay? So that's the first time that all the other departments are still pretty much the same. There were no states admitted to the Union, and
One more
Yeah.
bullet.
no states, and next he had some court appointments. He had 5 district courts, no Supreme Court, and so next week we'll pick up on there. We'll talk about what his domestic and foreign policies were.
Okay.
A little bit more about him as a person.
Yeah.
What his legacy was and all of that. Okay.
Good job.
So we'll do that next week.
Good job. I know it. See, Uncle Bachi has a hard time because he does hours and hours and hours of research
That's true.
every week. And then we ask him, could you give us to us in 10 minutes
Yeah, condense it.
or
Really.
less?
Yeah.
And he always has the same look on his face, like we just fed him a really sour lemon ball or something.
Do I really?
No.
I get very serious here, don't I?
You do. Good job. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you, Uncle Bots.
Good.
But tell them how to get you.
Yes, listeners, listen to me. Uncle Bocci, UNCLEBACI at DocOwenShow.com.
There you go. There you go.
And send me your ideas on what you would like to see out on our
Yeah, we could use some input.
website. Yeah.
could use some-
I'd like to know what do you want to know?
Some
What do you want our
creative input.
website?
Yeah.
Yeah, how can it benefit you? Just let us know.
There
We'll
you go.
work on it.
There you go. Okay. We're going to dive, because it was a long conversation. I don't want to break this one up. Normally, when I have a long conversation with our district attorney, Nico Lahood, I break it into 2 shows. But I don't want to do that this time. I think it's important that we get get it all out there in one chunk. So enjoy the conversation. Pay close attention to it, because there's an awful lot being said, and there's some stuff between the lines that you need to listen for. And then as we have time on the other side, we'll discuss it. Take it away, Nico.
Well, I may start off with that. We're about to have one of our friendly tete-a-tete conversations with District Attorney Nico Lahood. Nico, how are you?
I'm blessed. How are you, Doc?
I'm doing good, thank
Happy
you,
New
sir.
Year.
Happy and prosperous New Year,
Amen. Receive it.
as my Jewish brethren taught me to say a long time ago. They throw that prosperous word in there. I
Amen.
kind of
Yes.
like that. I got a question for you before we go down the path. Miss Surefire and I are working on a not-for-profit and trying to do some things with what we do in a more impactful way. And this is a little off of the wall, but I think you might be able to point us to somewhere either within the DA's office or somebody you guys know. And one of the things that we are focused on and looking at is rehabilitation, re-education, re-entry of victims of spousal abuse and how they get back into the workplace.
Wow, I thought you were going to talk about a restorative justice piece for offenders, like of nonviolent offenses, but you're talking about victims of domestic violence.
Yes.
That's excellent.
Are there, so not off the top of your head, because I know you like to respond, not react, but be thinking about where you might point us that we could interface with and see what programs are out there and what we can do to facilitate those.
Catholic Charities has good counseling programs, number one.
Okay.
You have a battered women's shelter, rape crisis center,
Right.
organizations like that work. Well, here's what the statistics show us, and
There
this
you
is
go.
why. This is why I created the Domestic Violence Task Force. We started
I
the
knew
child
you
abuse
did.
unit,
Right.
Because I ran on a campaign of children are a gift from the Lord. They're our future. We have to protect children. The child abuse numbers through Child Protective Services and in the office were skyrocketed.
Yep.
We're number 1 or number 2 in the state for many years in a row. And so what do you do? So I promised to create a child abuse unit. We created a child abuse unit. The statistics on that are saddened. They make me sad because they're high, because we've really prosecuted a lot more effectively and our conviction rates are higher. But I'm glad that we're holding people accountable to send the message that we're going to come
Yeah,
get
it's
you.
kind of a double-edged sword.
It's a double-edged sword.
I mean,
It's bittersweet statistics,
bittersweet.
right? They're bittersweet because
That's a better term.
The
Yeah.
stats are good in the sense of prosecutions are high, conviction rates are high, but it's sad because prosecutions
they're
are high
high.
and those numbers are high.
Right.
That's number one. So child abuse unit. But then I didn't want to ignore or it fall through the crack the domestic violence cases.
Correct.
And so we created a domestic violence task force.
Okay.
And what stats show us, that 1 in 3 women will experience domestic violence throughout their lifetime, right? It's horrible. Now, physical, sexual, mental, things of this nature.
All forms.
And 7 to 8 times it takes a woman will, before she reports.
Before she'll finally,
Before-
I've had enough.
I mean, we're talking in generality here, right? I'm not trying to paint with a broad brush.
I understand.
But why? Because this is kind of this culture of abuse, and it's a wearing down of the victim's mindset. And so many times we deal with witnesses that don't want to cooperate, not because they weren't abused, because they're the spouse or the father of the children, or they're providing in some sense. And they have created an environment, the actual defendant, to where they're relying on the defendant for money or for whatever, or security, or they've beaten down the mentality and the psyche and the identity of the victim so much, the mental abuse couples the physical abuse, to where it's hard for us to break that mindset, to give them options. So what you're telling me with this program, you want to give the victims options.
Yes.
I always tell people that at some point, where they're called survivors, right? I mean, because they survived a violent situation that's horrible and it's evil, and we should not condone it as a society, and we don't here. I have zero respect for people that would abuse women or a child.
Totally on the same
There's
page.
nothing manly about that. They're cowards. But number two, I want to get their mindset to where they feel they're an overcomer.
Yes.
A survivor just means that I just survived. I barely
Right.
got by.
So how do I get back on my game?
Get back on my game? So you have to survive for some period of time. So
Yes.
that's valid. I'm not trying to take away that assessment or evaluation of that season.
No, and that's
in the
an
victim's life.
important part of the emotional process. I mean, you got to go through that to realize that I can get back on my game.
That's right.
I've made it through this.
And the new normal can be a better new normal.
Yes.
I don't want
Yeah,
them to
yeah,
think
yeah.
that was it. That's not your
No, no, no.
identity. Because here's the thing that we have to think about: what effect does that have on the children in that relationship? I've said this before to you, Doc. Our children will follow our example long before they follow our advice, and we see that in the justice system.
Yeah.
So the children are being taught, this is how a man should treat me if it's a little girl. A boy, this is how I should treat a woman. I mean, they are forming their worldview and
Parents
what's
and older
acceptable.
brothers and- yep.
Everything.
Yep.
On the interaction between two parents. That's why it's critical. And that's why I commend people like Marta Pelaez. She works with Celebrating Families. She's from the Battered Women's Shelter. She runs it.
Okay.
And she's worked with Judge Sakai. And we've worked in the DA's office. We've expanded our CPS lawyers and our involvement with them on the front end. And we're really trying to bring the family unit back together. Celebrating Families works with a
Okay.
family that on paper might seem like, man, there's no way this family's going to make it. But they really work from a faith-based perspective, from a moral compass perspective, teaching them the principles of roles of daddy and mommy, because most men can father a child,
Yeah.
and most women can mother a child, but can you be a mommy to that child? Can
Yeah.
you be a daddy to that child?
Provide the emotional
And
security, the
discipline,
emotional.
love, affirmation. There's a lot that go into it.
Yes, sir.
And we're seeing some amazing results in
Cool.
programs like that.
Okay.
And so with what you sounds like, sorry for the long answer.
Nope, that's
but you seem like you have this desire to want to help out these women that have been victimized in these situations. Say, hey, there can be a new normal that's better than before. Obviously, let us give you options, job training, life skills, jobs, a place to stay, maybe groceries, financial support while you get on your feet, because we have to give them options to feel confident to break away from the abuser.
We're blessed enough that we can contribute, and we can mostly from a mental education experiential sort of a perspective, and feel the need to use our educations to give back at that level. So that's where we're coming from.
I think it's great.
And I wanted to take it up.
There's
with
a
you.
need. Look, there's not enough programs to do that. There's a lot of programs that do it.
It's a matter of finding a niche. It's a matter of finding, that little bitty, like anything else in the world today, particularly in the virtual world that we live in, this little bitty niche. What's that little? What are we missing? Where's the little thing? And going.
Well, there's
focus on
other
it.
organizations that
So-
to try to accomplish this goal. There's just not enough organization. There's plenty, unfortunately,
Okay.
for everyone.
That's-
There's plenty.
but that's
So
the
there's a need for
bittersweet
it.
thing.
There's
Okay.
a need for it.
We'll pursue it. You just gave us some good information. So you mentioned the town halls. I know that you've been conducting an outreach program
Yes.
quite successfully, at least from what I can tell via social media. It's well received,
A lot of good feedback.
as well it should be. Rumor has it you're a relatively good public speaker.
I don't know about that. I'm an honest public speaker. I promise you that.
So, how is that? I mean, tell me. But there are going to be naysayers.
Oh, sure.
There's going to be people that are going to try to skew what
But-
you're doing.
Without saying too much, there are already people that have done that. Very dishonest people that will take snippets of different portions of the town hall meeting and to create this narrative that's I don't know how to politically say it. Someone's lying. They're just lying.
Right.
And it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate that happens. Someone said last night at the town hall we had, it was very humbling because we don't take cards. See, let me give you some context.
What do you mean you don't take cards?
So I've been to a lot of town halls.
Oh, questions.
Yeah, we don't take cards. Because look, criticism of other town halls, and I'm not ragging on any other
No, but I
elected officials,
understand. I don't.
is the criticism is like, well, how do I know that you're not looking at my card and discarding it because it's too tough of a question?
Right.
And so, and I didn't want to have, and we're having over 15 town hall meetings. I mean, it took I really have to give credit to a staff member, Chris Cox, who worked. We've been working on this for months. I mean, this is not something you put together in a week. Over 15 venues.
Chris is such an asset.
You know, for a young guy, smart,
Man.
intelligent, wise beyond his years,
Yeah.
hard worker, loyal. I mean,
Just
and
as,
just has a
and
heart
just
to
as
serve.
jovial as he can be.
Yeah.
Just as very, very.
And he worked
pleasant.
hard to organize with other staff members
Right.
to situate, because I wanted to make sure that we reached the whole community. So we have
Right.
we broke it up into 4 precincts because that's the county is broken up into 4 precincts, and we have we're trying to do 3 to 4 in each precinct.
Okay.
And so that's our goal because we want to make sure that nobody feels left out.
Right.
And so last night we were at the town hall, and it was at Kennedy High School, and someone gets on the microphone and says, "Look," and 2 people actually said this, and I said, "Look, please don't, with all due respect, don't ask about sidewalks because we're not city council. Don't ask about
Right.
This has to be about public safety. The sheriff always shows up with me. The chief usually goes to every meeting. He had a conflict last night, so he sent Deputy Chief Flavin, and he's been going to a few of them as well. And I said, in 40 years, one guy said, and another person said, I've been through 7 DAs, and I've never even heard of a DA do this many meetings, and the way you do the meeting." And here's what he means. I do 10 minutes of talking on the front end.
Okay.
Just to lay the ground rules. Please don't be disrespectful.
Right.
Passion is welcomed. Disrespect is not, because then it becomes disorderly, and then we're not productive. And we can disagree, and you can be passionate, but just don't be disrespectful, because that's, so I lay the ground rules and how we're going to conduct this, and I might have to cut you off and things like that, just to save time.
Sure.
After 10 minutes, it's an hour and 45 minutes of Q&A.
Wow.
And we have a podium, we have a microphone, and get in line. There's no cards. There's no sifting through cards. I have no idea what people are going to ask. Neither does the sheriff. Neither does the chief. And,
What are you, nuts?
well,
That's pretty
I've been
risky
called-
business.
Well, it's not risky when you're just going to answer honestly.
That's the reason I ask you that.
You know what I mean? I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to rehearse my answers. You just have to be honest with people. And I tell people, I can't promise you that you're going to like the answer I'm going to give you, but it's going to be an honest answer. But there's no way. And I tell people, there's no way a DA can keep everybody happy, nor should they.
Well, for those of you that this may be the first conversation you've heard between Nico and I can attest to the fact that he doesn't always tell you what you want to hear.
Well, I mean, it's just...
But he tells you what you need to know.
And
That's
I'll
one of
explain,
my favorite phrases.
And I'll explain why. That's the difference. I mean, so
Yes.
you explain why. I've had some of the toughest conversations about...
Which even after you've done that, I don't necessarily have to agree with you.
Nope.
And I can explain why.
That's right.
And, at least that's the relationship that we got,
I have a
which
dear
is
friend of
pretty
mine
cool.
that we would probably disagree, I think, literally on like 2 or 3 topics. That's it. And it's not way disagree with each other, just slight disagreements. And we've explained our positions to each other, and we're just not going to
Just can't
agree.
get there.
I still love you. I'm still for you.
Yeah.
I still want to go eat with you. I want to
Right,
hang out
right.
with you. I like talking to your dumbass. We rag on
But
each
we
other.
ain't getting there.
But we're just not going to get there right now. I might change my perspective over
Yeah.
time. Maybe you will. Who knows? But I just think it's so unfortunate that in this charged environment today, that we just, number one, it's how outlandish can you be against your opponent, whoever your opponent is. I'm not talking about candidate. I'm talking about opponent on an issue.
Yeah.
How outlandish can you be? And if we disagree, we have to hate each other. I just don't understand that mentality. I don't get it.
It's self-serving. It's been imposed over. I'll go to my white hair on you a little bit. It's been imposed over a number of years of how to get out the vote.
Well,
How to. We hear a lot of talk about energizing your base, and yada, 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 yada. And it's just the more, or at least there is a school of thought that says the more we can polarize, the more we can get support. One way or the other.
And I think
Does that make
I think
sense?
everybody's guilty of it, right? I mean, there's
It's hard. It's a tough trap not to fall into.
Let me tell you, I tell people, this is what I tell people when they talk about, golly, man, you're not politically correct, you just speak your mind. I go, if there's any position in public service that you don't want politics to invade,
Bingo.
it's the DA's position.
Bingo.
You just don't.
It can't.
I mean, there's not one judge I've ever
You're in
met.
a police state if you do that. You're in a very, very sad
It's a slippery
situation.
slope. Depending on which
Yes,
party's
sir.
in charge, the other side's in trouble, right?
That's right.
I mean, so and then this is a
And
neutral
that
statement.
who's in charge can change.
I've known every Republican and Democrat judge in Bexar County since I've practiced law for 16 years, or
course
whatever
you
it's been. And I literally have not heard one judge say, I wish we didn't have to run under a certain platform, because in this courthouse, nobody ever walks into a courtroom and says, Judge, what party are you in?
Yeah.
Before you dispense justice. Mr. DA, every victim I've met with, the most serious of cases, child molestation, sexual assault of children, murdering of children, sexual abuse of children, sexual assault of women, capital murders. Never has anybody walked into that office when I do private meetings and I meet with anybody that wants to meet
And
and
ask you what party you're in.
what political party are you in? What the investigators are going to work on getting justice for my loved one. What do they think? Where do they stand? The assistant U.S., the assistant attorneys, the ADAs, the assistant district attorneys, what do they think? Nobody, because I deal with people at their worst. At their worst situation, they're either begging for mercy because they made a nonviolent, stupid offense, and then they need some grace and mercy, or they're dealing with the worst of the worst, violent crime. They took the loved one, and you have to walk into that meeting with a clear mind, with a sober mind, with an open heart, with that love for humanity.
Yeah.
I've met with everybody. I mean, literally, I've met with every individual, any type of person, every sector of this society, because crime affects us all, every one of us. And I walk in there humble, but also fearless, to not be afraid to defend them and to do what's right to protect either the person victimized, or there's cases where citizens are falsely accused, and I have to take a stand against the arresting agency and say, wait a minute, guys, you did this wrong. That this is not appropriate, and this case is going to be dismissed. Or you did it right, but this is the right outcome. So can you see how the DA, any DA, not just me, any DA ever to serve anywhere in Bexar County or in the country for that matter, there's no way, by default, there's no way a DA can keep everybody happy.
I've always wondered why our best and brightest, and I like to think that that's how it happens. A lot of times, our best and brightest, in terms of the legal profession, wind up in the district attorney's office, wind up in a DA's role. It's a thankless position, as far as it's a. I don't want to say it's a rewarding position, but from a personal reward of doing the right thing and giving back from your education, et cetera, et cetera. But Nico,
I tell people, I've told you this before.
There's just way too many people that don't appreciate that that's how it works.
I tell people, and you don't have to answer this. I'm either stupid or purposeful. I gave up a good law practice.
I'm sure.
And I had a lot more time with my kids. I just said this earlier. I was talking to somebody, just today, literally. When people say, I said, I'm never going to lose myself, right? Too much is at stake. Forget the private practice. Literally forget the financial side of what my family gave up and I gave up.
Yeah.
Two very distinct comments were made by my daughters over the last 3 months. She's 9 now, but she was 8 at the time. She said, Papi, I don't know if I want you to win. And this is before campaigning, re-election talk.
Yeah.
I wasn't even sure if I was this, maybe 4 or 5 months ago. I should restate that. And I said, why, my love? Because at nighttime I was tucking her in bed. because you're not here a lot. And I said, I'm sorry, baby. And we have Joshua 24:15 in our kitchen. It says, as for me and my house, we'll serve the Lord, right? And I just said, I'm being obedient to Diosito as a term of endearment in Spanish for God, right?
Yes, sir.
Diosito.
Yes.
I'm just being obedient to Diosito. She goes, I know, papi. But then I kind of want you to win because you're good at what you do.
Right.
You help people. That's her perception. At the time, an 8-year-old
exactly what I'm
was
saying.
perceiving my role as helping people. And I think that humbled me. It hurt me because she realizes that I'm not there. And I don't get that time back. And I'm not promised tomorrow with her. I'm just not. I see too much here. I'm not here. I'm not promised tomorrow myself. And so I'm giving up too much. But it was that spiritual B12 shot of saying that even your daughter, an 8-year-old, recognizes that you're helping people. That was really talk about perspective, right?
Yes.
That what you're giving up, but what you're doing, you're being obedient to serve
Right.
the community at a different level. Then just literally last week, I work on weekends because I speak and make myself available to talk
Right.
with folks. And this last Sunday, I think it was, Sunday before, I'm leaving the house on a Sunday to go speak somewhere. And my 4-year-old goes, Papi, where are you going? Don't leave. And I said, Mommy, I have to go somewhere. Because, she's younger, so she
Sure.
doesn't, I just have to go somewhere. And then she like drops her face. I wish you could see the face of me. She goes, Papi, you always have to go somewhere. And I mean,
It's a killer.
man, bro, it just pulls at your heart.
It's a killer.
They don't get it, and like I said, so much is at stake. My family gives up a lot more. The people don't realize every public official, if they're in it for the right reasons, gives up so much.
Sure. Sure.
Gives up so much.
I want to, since we're on the radio, you don't get to take advantage of this. But one of the reasons that Nico's heart is pure and that he's speaking the truth is because he's been doing this for a while, and I've noticed he still has very little gray hair.
Shoot, what are you talking about? Look at this. It's coming in. I mean, I'm not compared to you. This guy's a
Well, yeah,
silver fox over here. but it's coming. I promise you.
But
more.
it's slow in coming, so that's good. That means
I would have less if I wasn't in public service.
I would
promise you
imagine
that.
that's true too. That's true too. So how do we help? What do we do to help? What do we tell our young people about? I'm always talking to them about cutting through the cloud. I mean, connecting the dots in the way that they belong connected, and trying to get rid of all the fog and the nonsense. I was trained as a youngster to do what we called read between the lines. I got lucky. I had teachers in junior high and high school that would go through the newspaper with us in school, and we'd read it, and they would say, well, what did you read? And if you told them what literally was on the page, that wasn't good enough.
Well, you're talking about reasoning and logic, right?
Yes, sir.
We don't do that anymore. We live in a microwave mentality. Everything's got to be quick.
Yep.
Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, instant, fast this, fast food, fast
Right.
cars, fast everything, right?
Right.
And you can take a picture and send it all over the world. We don't have this concept of
And
developing
and it's
nurturing.
absolute value. There's nothing but,
Yeah,
it is what it is.
That's got to be
it.
true because it's just some
There it
snippet
is.
somewhere.
Right.
And we're not taught to logically think through things, and I think
Right.
that's dangerous. I mean, look, there's a movie out on Winston Churchill recently, right?
Have you seen it?
I have. Look, I have time to go see a movie.
Dude.
But I will. I'll break away.
Take
But
your
I heard it's
4-year-old.
good. I heard
It's great.
I heard it's really good.
It
Let me
is
tell you-
fabulous.
Let me tell you one of the.
You'll really like it.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Well, one of the statements he said, there was one of his quotes that I really like, and it was kind of a concept. I shouldn't say it's a quote, but he basically said this. He said the most valuable thing in the world is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's true, right? Why did he say that? I mean, because it's a true statement. Because without truth, not relative truth, 1 + 1 is 2. I mean, it doesn't matter how you look at it, 1 + 1 is always going to be 2.
Right.
Without truth, you have no order in a society because everybody's making up their own rules. On either side.
As they go along.
I'm an extremist on either side. I'm trying not to make this about a political issue. I'm trying to
I
make this
understand.
about culture and concepts, right?
It's that time of the year, so it's hard. But I
I
get it.
I'm just talking concepts, right? Big
Yes.
concepts. But without truth, absolute truth, you have no order. And without truth, you have no justice.
Right.
Can you imagine that whoever the DA is, whoever a judge is, can make up their own truth? I mean, that's a scary proposition. That's scary. You don't want... Lady Justice wears a blindfold for a reason. People don't even realize... I like to educate people when I speak about... Do you know where the statue lady, where that comes from? Do you know the history on that?
I think
Have
you
told
told me.
Have I told you that
Tell
before?
us again.
Would you remember? You didn't listen to me very well.
Ay, chinga.
Good for you. That's in Spanish. That's my language. That's awesome, man. That's in Spanish all you want with me. The goddess Themis. Back then, and this goes back thousands of years, there was a polytheistic society. There were thousands of gods. Now,
Right.
you know, and
I
everyone
got
knows
that.
that I'm very proud of my Christian faith, so I don't worship Greek goddesses. But in the time back then, there were many gods, and goddess Themis, she was the goddess of order.
Okay.
Now, that makes sense, right? The justice system should bring order to any society, not disorder.
Correct.
Now, everything on the statue represents something.
I remember that.
She
Right.
wears the blindfold because
Right.
justice should be blind.
Blind.
Forget about
Right.
your political
Scales
persuasions,
and the whole-
the gender, race, how much money you make, what you do, it doesn't matter. Law is the big equalizer. Facts, she puts them together.
Right.
Now, she puts her foot on the book. Why? Because knowledge of the law, you cannot apply the law if you don't have knowledge of the law. She has a sword in her right hand. Why? Because at times the justice
You have
system
to be-
needs to be swift and harsh.
Right.
I mean, there's some violent, evil people out there, and you need to deal with them in a very swift, harsh way sometimes. In between her book, the book, and her foot
Right.
is a serpent. Regardless of your faith, the universal symbol of a serpent is evil.
Yeah. And it's
So
always
a-
there.
a
It's
just-
always present.
Well, but the justice system, that's why she's stomping on it, should stomp out evil in a society.
Okay.
That's what you want, in between
Right.
the book and her foot. But in her left hand, she carries what? The scales.
Right.
Because she's got to balance all that out and sift through, as your words were earlier, the cloud.
Right.
And I want to say the crap, the BS.
Right.
To get past all that distraction and get to the truth and what's the appropriate thing to do with that truth. So that really has very deep meaning that people kind of overlook. They see
Of
the
course.
Lady Justice, and everybody always says, oh, scales, the blindfold. And they don't talk about
Each and every
synergistically
little
what
piece.
it all means together
Correct.
and what the goddess Themis represented was order.
Right.
So
So there
tough,
you go.
Tough business, man.
It is a tough business.
Tough business. not for the faint at heart, I promise you that.
No, not at all. And even discussing it's not for the faint of heart.
No, but all you can do is just have conversations with people, and I mean, I don't know why we miss. I love to hear from people and learn from them. It all depends on the discord. How is the conversation conducted? I'm open-minded, and I like to share my opinions with people, and I love to hear other people's opinions. You have to have ground rules, though. I mean, how are we going to talk? Are we going to talk friendly until one of us gets upset because someone's making a better point? Then we start calling each other names and yelling at each other and cutting each other off. I mean, does that happen, or do we say, look, let's just play this out and see what happens? See, think how I'm trained, though. I'm a litigator. So in court, if one litigator is getting their ass handed to them by the evidence or the trial techniques, and they just freaked out and had a temper tantrum in the middle of court and started yelling, I mean, that's not acceptable. First of all, you'd be held in contempt. You'd be kicked out. Nobody would listen to you.
That's the way they do it in the movie.
Well, yeah. You don't try a case in 30
But was
minutes.
it A Few Good Men where she said I strenuously object?
Oh, yeah, well.
Well, we didn't know you strenuously
Yeah.
object.
I mean, look, some of those theatrics are real. I mean, those theatrics,
I know they
it's all
are.
technique. And
they have an impact.
And they have a purpose. And
yeah,
it's all
absolutely.
persuasion style. And that's all appropriate. I have zero issue with persuasion, theatrics. I have an issue
Some of
with...
the best lawyers I've ever known that actually would have been a pretty good salesman. It's
Yeah.
a shame they went awry.
No kidding. I'm not going to argue that point. You win this one.
They could have made a heck of a living.
No, I'm with you. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right, brother. So,
And not had to take any heat for it.
yeah.
We so much appreciate your time
Oh, Daddy, I enjoy it. Thank you.
and your thoughtfulness. I know this is some of it's no fun, but
It's purposeful, man.
It is
I
purposeful.
mean, it is. Look, I want to...
It is purposeful.
Here's what I tell people all the
And I
time.
appreciate you doing it.
I don't plan to be in politics all my life. I don't plan it. I don't plan to be the DA.
You can't afford it.
Well, that's a different topic. You're right. I have 4 kids, man. But I want to establish a culture here that at some point, whenever the good Lord says, that I can hand off to somebody else. Because I plan to continue to live in this community and have my children, and hopefully, God willing, my grandchildren grow up in this community. So I want this...
I would hate to lose you.
Well, I appreciate
I
that.
mean, I would hate to not lose you as a DA, but certainly I would really hate to lose you as a citizen.
Well, no.
As you graduate, I've since day one that I met you, have known that it's something big. I don't know what it is.
Oh,
You don't know what it is.
Look, it's big enough when I'm a daddy to 4 kids and a husband to my wonderful wife. But I have a spirit to serve. I want to continue to serve.
Yeah.
In some way, I can do that as a private citizen or as an elected official. I'll be obedient to a calling, whether it's... I mean, I'm not saying that, hey, screw politics forever and that I'm out for good. I'm just saying my plan was never to get in. But look what happened. And so my plan is not to stay in for a whole career.
Thanks a lot. You're looking around.
But I'm, I'll be obedient, over my own comfort. We'll see what happens.
There's, I keep saying sooner or later it's got to take a turn for the better. Sooner or later the truth will come out and it'll all start to change.
Man, I just have to have discussions. People have to be able to have discourse and this conversation with each other, and not to be upset and not to yell and just talk. Just to reason with each other, and because you never know when I sit down on tough topics and talk with people. I open my mind and I'm like, oh, that's a different perspective. Let me put that in my wheelhouse, and how does that affect the way I look at this issue? And vice versa, I've done that for other people.
Right.
You always have to be open. When any citizen or any society gets to a point where they feel like they cannot continue to grow and get better and learn, come on, they're fooling themselves, man. We're going to learn until the very last moment. I am.
We're in trouble.
So
What can we do for you?
pray for me. Man,
You got it.
That's it.
You got it.
My kids, my poor wife, married to my crazy
I pray
ass.
for her all the time. I've never even met her, and I pray for her.
Thank you. She's a neat lady. Thank you.
Mr. Lahood,
Doc, thank you, sir. for your
thank
time.
you, sir.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. You're a good man.
Thank you, sir.
I hope you enjoyed that. I'll take you back to my leadership quote. Throughout my life, I have never regretted telling the truth. Menachem Mendel, Nico Lahood.
Yep.
And as we voiced last week as a lead up to the conversation with Nico, he's taking some heat locally because he is not Democrat enough, as witnessed by the fact that he's on the conservative talk show, Doc Owen show, way too often. What a bunch of schmucks.
Yep.
I don't know how else to put it. If that's all you've got on this brave young man, then you just need to go somewhere else. You need to take your party and go somewhere else, because that sort of thinking has absolutely no place in the United States of America. And it really has no place in the district attorney's office, as Nico and I were talking about. You don't want a party, someone stamped, that I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, therefore I think this way, in the DA's office. You don't want that kind of favoritism or good old boy system going on. When you do get that going on is when you get these absolute criminal environments that goes on in some cities, that goes on in some DA's offices. And we read about them in the newspaper all the time. Thankfully, I don't think that we're in jeopardy of having that here. We had such a long conversation. We have very little time to talk about the State of the Union. But I will tell you this. It's been a really long time since the halls of Congress and that building have erupted spontaneously in a chant of USA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, and not surprisingly, it triggered some idiots who had to leave and go to a safe place because they couldn't stand the sound of USA, USA. If I thought that was all it would took, I would strap a huge speaker on my car and drive around with USA going on all the time.
That's a great idea. Let's work on that.
That is a
Why
good
we don't
idea.
get out here?
I'm gonna paint my old truck red, white, and blue and speaker it up. Front row. Time to go. You have been listening to the Doc Owen Show. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. Now go out there this week and take care, pay attention, and God bless.
Bye-bye, folks. God bless.